to a special edition of the Darden Admissions Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. So in this episode of the podcast, we return to an ongoing series here at the Darden School of Business, what's called the Women at Darden Office Hours series, that's hosted by Senior Assistant Dean for Admissions, Donna Clark. In this episode, she catches up with faculty member here at the Darden School of Business and Senior Associate Dean for the Residential MBA program, Melissa Thomas Hunt. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. And as always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. And now without further ado, here's our Women at Darden Office Hours conversation featuring Donna Clark and Melissa Thomas Hunt.
I'm excited to introduce you all to an absolute rock star member of our leadership and organizational behavior faculty and Senior Associate Dean for the full-time MBA program, Melissa Thomas Hunt. She not only teaches at Darden, but also at the UVA Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. For over 25 years, she has taught MBAs and executives leadership, team dynamics, negotiations, and she's conducted research on the factors that unleash, leverage, and amplify the contributions made by individuals, particularly women. I see some hearts floating up there, underrepresented individuals, and numerical minorities. In her prior life at Darden, she served as Global Chief Diversity Officer before moving to Vanderbilt as Vice Provost for Inclusive Excellence, and most recently, Airbnb as Head of Global Diversity and Belonging. She's a frequent flyer on our Women at Darden Office Hours series. She's so good. We keep asking her back year after year.
Here.
So welcome back, Melissa.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of us, all of you for joining. You are in for a real treat. And look at all the love coming your way.
So much. I feel it.
The
That's so
emojis
nice.
and things. It's a very Darden-esque.
It is.
It's very, very, very Darden-esque. Love it. Nice. Well, I'd like to get started. Melissa has a really interesting background, and I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about your background leading up to what led you to want to become a teacher.
Yeah. So, I'll start by saying both of my parents were teachers, are teachers in some still way. And I saw them trying to unleash the potential in individuals that maybe others weren't investing in, both in their very separate ways. And that became a model. And they also instilled a desire to learn, a curiosity, and a desire to leave things better than I found them. And so I always had that in the back of my head. I don't think I would have articulated as a child that I wanted to be a teacher per se.
Yeah.
I went off to college. I was a chemical engineering major.
I remember
That
that.
was the hardest thing that I have ever done.
I can imagine. My dad's a chemical engineer.
Oh, gosh.
So
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
know a little bit about it.
And I think I left college generally having had a good experience, but feeling a little defeated, my confidence down a little bit.
Yeah.
I went off to IBM. I was a sales rep, had a phenomenal time there, observed people, found this field called organizational behavior, the linkage between business and people and how, people get leveraged and in service of business outcomes, and decided that I wanted to study that and that I wanted to teach and I wanted to help understand more about how all people in business could thrive, could be more successful, how I could contribute to that.
And it's so interesting that is so tied to the influence of your parents too, in terms of unleashing potential. And what a great testament to your parents for the career choice that you have chosen. Can you tell everybody too, just a tad about your personal life? I know you're a working mom. You just moved to Earlingsville.
Yes, yeah. I am a working mom and have been for almost 27 years. My oldest will turn 27 at the end of October. And I've been an academic for, slightly longer than that. I live here in Charlottesville with my spouse. And we do live in Earlingsville, just south of the airport, which is a great location.
Oh, that's a great location.
We travel. One of the things I think being in particular a parent has I'm at my best because it's caused me to want to make the world a better place for them. And that means that I want to help individuals be their best and be productive and make societal changes and help them think about how business participates in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I really admire about you, and I want to tell the audience about it, I don't know if you are aware how many women look up to you for your ability to do such a fantastic job as a professor and as a leader at Darden, while also juggling a significant commitment. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your new affinity for football?
And it is a new affinity for football. It is a
it.
new affinity. So I have 3 children. The youngest is 20 and attends Middlebury College and is a defensive end there. I'm getting all the language down. And my spouse and my commitment is that we, barring unforeseen circumstances, we make all of his games. So in the fall, there are 9 games in their season, and we travel up to New England every weekend.
I think it's
to support him, and it's a great way to just keep him grounded, and to participate in a community that's really generative for him, but also for us. And I get to learn more about football.
Right, and I know you bonded with the other parents.
The other parents are amazing. It's a really supportive environment. He's got great teammates. There's a great ethos of older players mentoring younger players, and we just want to be supportive of that, and great coaching staff as well.
I just think it sets such a remarkable, positive example for people who can really excel at Darden and also excel as a parent do it in a way that makes a big difference. I'm a great admirer for that. Like many of us, you're in your second life at Darden. There's several of us around. Boomerang. I'm a boomerang too. You returned to Darden from your role as head of global diversity and belonging at Airbnb, where you led the strategy and execution of global internal diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging programs. What prompted you to come back to Darden?
Yeah. So I love Darden. And even as I stepped away, I still love Darden. So much so that when I would talk about Darden, and it was often, I still used we when I was talking about it. And I just, I realized that, and I was in tech, and I was at tech in, the middle of the pandemic, and then afterwards, and at a time when things were moving really fast, at a great company. But what I realized was that what the world needs is more good managers and leaders. And I knew a place where we built really great, curious, kind, thoughtful leaders. And I wanted to come back and be part of that at the top of the funnel, like the creation of that, armed with having a laser sharp focus on what was actually happening in the world of practice. Right. Understanding what tech in particular was, but understanding what the challenges were of leaders and managers as they were in a increasingly constrained environment, but with new technological innovations, and how I could contribute to helping to meet those managers. Because what we also know is that first line managers make a huge, huge difference in the experience of employees, in their sense of belonging, in their productivity and ability to thrive, and their desire to remain at their companies. And we do a great job at minting first line and second line and even executives here at Darden.
And how lucky, I tell prospective students all the time, Darden is very well known for a sense of community. But since Melissa has become Senior Associate Dean for the MBA program, I think she has just taken it to a whole new level. We're so fortunate to benefit from your expertise. And I wanted to ask you a couple of questions of things that you've done since you become Senior Associate Dean. So one of the changes you've made is the sequencing of the first year core and the first year experience.
Yes.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about what prompted you to make those changes and how maybe it benefits the students?
Absolutely. So I'm a student of people, but in particular, when I was at Airbnb, I spent a lot of time focusing on connection and community and how do you build that. And while Darden is an excellent small connected community, in any environment, there are always opportunities to increase that. And what we know is when you build those connections early on, then they're lasting, they're supportive, they're generative as you're learning in a new environment. And so we decided to do a number of things. And your team was amazing in partnering with us.
Thank you.
And so we have Who Cruise. And so over the summer, incoming students get partnered with their incoming classmates, and they have some activities that they do to get to know one another, so that when you land, you have this group of individuals that you already know really well, that you get to see in other formats that are we structure it in. So there's a pull through. We also decided that we were going to take one of our really popular courses, leading teams, and we were going to move it to the front of the program so that all of our first years go through leading teams, because our pedagogy is so reliant about learning from one another in learning teams. And we wanted to do more to support those efforts and also build the connections that so frequently form in learning teams. And we want to start earlier and build effective conflict management skills and negotiation skills and ability to recognize expertise. And so now, in a 4-day intensive, we get to launch you into leading teams into the start of the quarter. And it also, in learning, it's another group. And so you're having more cross-cutting connections,
right?
So that you get into your section, but you also know other people, you have your learning team, because all of those things really contribute to building relationships, to people feeling connected from across the globe and all coming together in the Darden environment.
And I've heard such good things from students the last couple of years about the Who's Crew. And imagine, walking into an environment where many people don't know anyone. So to have kind of a little tribe before you come in is so reassuring.
And it's so much fun. The first day that everyone is in person, we have a huge tent and everyone comes and meets their Who Crew and they do another activity. And there's this energy and this buzz from the excitement of actually getting to connect in person.
It's interesting, as you were talking, I've been thinking, I like to read a lot about like happiness studies. And one of the things that they almost inevitably all come back to are the quality of the relationships in your life, the quality of the connections. So I think nothing more important than fostering those connections at Darden, in a community that's so well known for this, and take it even to
and
another
that become,
level.
Lasting, the entirety of a lifetime going forward.
Yeah. Darden is also so well known for having a longstanding reputation for the quality of the educational experience and the teaching faculty. As prospective students are considering Darden, can you share some examples based on your own teaching about how this manifests itself in the classroom?
Yes. So you should all in some way participate in a Darden classroom, because there's really nothing like it. It's a student-centered environment, which means that particularly in the first year, you're with 69 or 70 of your classmates and a faculty member who is there to facilitate the conversation. You've been provided with a case to read about a thorny, ambiguous situation with data and lots of things going on. And your job, after having gone to learning team, is to come into class and distill that, to figure out from all the ambiguity, like what are the key pieces of information, and to learn how to ask high quality questions, because it's really about the questions that you ask that allow you to get the data that you need and to do the analysis and to be in conversation. And what I really love about student-centered learning is that we know that you have expertise from your past life. We don't just ask you to leave that. We want you to bring it in and inform the discussion with it, and learn from one another. And then we also ask you to act. We want you to take a leadership point of view. So you've distilled this, and it's not just about leaving it with what the protagonist should do. What would you do if you were in the situation? And the pull through on that is that we find that our Darden MBA students are so well prepared in their internships.
Hear that.
And when they graduate, they jump into conversations. They know how to use their voice. They know how to even disagree, but in ways that are well received. And that's all fostered in that learning environment with our pedagogy.
Yeah. And just for everybody's knowledge, the average Darden student will do about 500 cases in 2 years. So like many skills, practice makes perfect. And we do hear so frequently from alumni and recruiters the extent to which the case method really prepared them for their internships and full-time jobs. To maybe illuminate the case method a little bit more, can you give the students maybe 1 or 2 examples of a case that you teach, just to give them a little color?
Give them a little. So I teach a variety of cases and have written a number of them as well. One of the ones that I have recently written is called Julianne Cromit at Disney Studios. And Julianne was a vice president at Disney Studios in charge of multicultural engagement. And she was really responsible for what they call Launchpad, which was an opportunity for a broader array of directors and writers and producers to come into the pipeline at Disney and to create content that really reflected the global world.
Mhm.
But she came in and she had to discern who were the stakeholders, what were the friction points, who did she need to get on board, how did she
Right.
have to interact with Bob Iger. And so I love that because she's a dynamic individual who often makes an appearance in class when
Oh,
we're teaching the case.
oh,
When we're teaching the
nice.
case. And so that's one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
sounds so interesting.
It's really great. And I also teach a lot of negotiations. And so negotiation cases that help ground individuals. Are you an entrepreneur and you're negotiating with, a consultant that you need, or are you negotiating your job, or a host of other things? I think what I love most about the writing of cases is that we get to take the real world in, capture it in its richness, but provide a framework for understanding, for distilling, for acting.
Mm. And I also know I mentioned to everyone earlier that you have a joint appointment with the Batten School of Leadership
I do.
and Public Policy. Can you share with the audience a little bit more about what your role there entails and
Yes.
maybe how the schools intersect?
Yeah. So I like to think of my roles here at Darden and at Batten as being sort of a kaleidoscope, right? Depending on the moment in time, I may be more present in one place than another. Right now, I happen to be very, very present at Darden. The students in both places are really excellent and highly engaged, and I think what I love about the intersection of the two is that it represents the notion that, and it's a school of leadership and public policy, right? So it dovetails very much with the work that I do, the teaching that I do, but that business and policy need to be more integrated, right? That as we are thinking about, changes in the world, that there is a policy and an implementation lens, but like that business shouldn't be left out of it, and that they can
Right.
actually be an accelerator or actually a lever in doing that. And so I teach in both places, not teaching as much this year at Batten, but have taught those students. And it's really a lovely synergy. And we even have students who are combined degree majors across Batten
Right.
and Darden as well.
It's wonderful. I mean, and also just the intersection on UVA's main campus. I often tell prospective students, if you come to Darden, you're also a student of the University of Virginia, and to take advantage of all the opportunities that UVA has to offer
That's right.
as well. So nice to have a faculty member who is well aware.
Well, and the other thing is that, the thorniest problems that are facing us don't present themselves as like in the public policy school or like in the business school. There, when you think about healthcare challenges, when you think about education or climate change or any of that amalgam, you really need multidisciplinary perspectives. And so I
Right.
get to sit at the intersection and hopefully foster more integration.
You're such a vibrant part of the community. I just saw you at the International Food Festival. Can you
Yes.
tell the students a little bit about your connection? You do so much to foster connection between them, but I see you as a very visible leader with the students. Can you tell everybody about a few activities recently, maybe that you participated in with?
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I see you everywhere. So
Well, I certainly was at the International Food Festival, which is one of our most fun and vibrant cultural opportunities to taste food and to for students to share their cultural heritage with us, and everyone thoroughly enjoys it. I spend lots of time with students because it's my way to understand the experience, to understand what's going super well so that we do more of that, to understand where there are opportunity areas. Right now, I get to teach a class with almost all of the presidents of our club. So it's called Leadership Learning Lab. So I'm spending time with our second
oh,
years
that's amazing.
doing that. And then I also spend a lot of time with our section reps elected. And they're sort of like my board, right?
Yeah.
So that I can understand like what's going on, what are the challenges, what's going on in the recruiting world. Jeff McNish comes in.
Right.
My philosophy is that engaging with the students is the most important aspect of my job. Though, you know, I spend a fair amount of time with faculty members too.
Sure.
But the more time I spend with students, the better a translator I am for helping our faculty understand how they can better engage. And if I can say a little bit about our faculty.
Yeah, please.
You know, I think a lot of schools talk about how incredible their faculty are. We have an incredible faculty, but I'll go beyond that. Beyond being experts in their area, every single one of them is at Darden because they actually want to engage with students. They get energy from being in the classroom, from learning, from seeing their students succeed. And that really is a differentiator for us. They come to events, they have coffee chats with their students, they host them at their houses. They really, really care deeply.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One of the things I really love at Darden is the constant sense of positive momentum. What are some things that you're excited about for Darden's future, or things, new initiatives that are underway now?
I'm channeling our dean.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited that in the future we're going to have residential housing.
I was hoping you would say that. Okay, good.
You know, it's an amazing way. So we are about to break ground on residential housing for our MBAs. We're really excited. The expectation is that we're going to be able to accommodate, you know, as many of our first years who want to live in residential housing, creating actually more community and more connection, spaces to gather, to learn together. And so I'm really excited about that particular opportunity. I'm always excited about the fact that we have Darden Worldwide courses where we give an opportunity to our students, funded at least once, to travel around the world, learning and engaging in, you know, business and societal issues. It's not only an opportunity to gain more knowledge, but to have more of those cross-cutting connections, because when you're challenging yourself and learning in an environment that may be less familiar with other people, the types of bonds that you form are really solid.
Right. Getting back to the residential housing too, Melissa was humble in that she really chaired a committee looking very closely at whether Darden should offer residential housing, and then more as that progressed, just kind of in what manner.
That's right.
So many questions.
There's so many things that we are still solving for, but at the heart of it, what we're trying to create is an environment in which our students away from the classroom can feel like they're at home, can thrive, can gather together, can cook together, can study together, can host other friends there, so that it really feels like a place. It's a living, learning community. And I know, you is near and dear to your heart.
It is.
And I'm just so excited to see that it's going to come to fruition.
Me too. I'm so excited. I think it's going to add so much and provide such a nice option for students. One of the questions that we had in advance are, what are some of the best kept secrets about Darden?
Oh goodness, best kept secrets. So I love Flagler tents. And it's going to seem silly, but so Flagler tent is like in our main grassy courtyard area. Our weather generally is good, and you can be outside. And what I love about it is that you can sit and you can gather, you can work independently, but you can kind of see the Darden world go by. Right. And so I often will take meetings there, or I'll just sit and do some work because it makes me feel part of the larger community outside in the environment. The other thing is Charlottesville is beautiful, and our grounds are lovely. And so, outside in Flagler tent, as opposed to in my office, I can partake of the beauty that also is surrounding it. But the Blue Ridge Mountains are spectacular. They are, the greenery. Yes. The fact that you don't have to go somewhere else to experience the calm of the environment, but also to know that you are in a city that has cultural things to do, that has, it has a great food community, it has music, and that you can get to other places, pretty quickly.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because so many people in the audience have maybe never visited Charlottesville, are not familiar with Charlottesville. Us boomerangs came back in part because we love
that's right.
Charlottesville. Could you elaborate a little bit more on Charlottesville? And then I'm going to ask our tech support. I can't see the questions that are coming in, so I'm going to see if there's a mouse here.
Yep.
Okay, great. Super. Let me see if I can figure that out while Melissa is elaborating
On Charlottesville.
On
Yeah.
Charlottesville.
I mean, it's really wonderful to be in a place where you both have amazing beauty, which for me, when I was studying, when I am working, creates a serenity and a calmness. It's also a city town that's easy to navigate. And as I mentioned, there are great places to eat and to go and hang out with friends and hang out with friends. And then if you want to go to a major metropolis, you can, in relatively short order, you can be in Washington, D.C., you can be in Richmond at the Art Institute and exploring, more urban centers as well. And so we're really well situated to do lots of things.
I agree. I love Charlottesville so much, between the farmers market, the great food scene.
That's right.
The Rand McNally rated it one of the best foodie
That's right.
towns.
It's a great food
in
town.
the country, the outdoorsy things.
That's right.
To do. Oh, the film festival that's
the
coming up.
film festival. Yes, film festival. Really, really wonderful. So lots of the world intersects in Charlottesville.
Yeah,
it surprised most people.
I know, it's true. Okay, one of the questions, we're gonna toggle a little bit to some pre-submitted questions and some live questions. Shim wants to know, of all your accomplishments at Darden, what are you most proud of, or what is most poignant?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
Well, you've accomplished a lot. You have a lot to draw on.
So I'm going to say it's a work in progress, but I'm really proud of the relationship that I have with our students, both our first years and our second years. I feel like I have built and am continuing to build a strong relationship where they know that I care, that I actually want to hear what's on their minds, that I want to help co-create with them and with staff and with faculty an amazing experience. And part of that means that we know we will disagree on some things, but knowing that there's a receptivity, I think I'm really proud of those relationships with students.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what's more important than that? Sonia wants to know, how do you envision the evolving role of women in business, and how is Darden preparing its MBA students to take leadership roles in this changing environment?
Yeah. So, I mean, the evolving role of women in business is that they're going to continue to have tremendous impact. I think that in so many ways, historically, and we have Alison Elias, who is a scholar of women's historical involvement in business, we'd find that even though at certain points in time women were not foregrounded, they actually had really substantial roles. I'm thrilled now that we are more aware, and that their contributions, their leadership, their achievements are foregrounded, and I have every expectation that that's going to continue. I mean, the notion is in a world that needs the very best, why would we ever limit the talent that we enlisted in support of solving problems and delivering services? And so women will be ever present. And that doesn't suggest that there aren't points of friction, but in the very Darden classroom, we have conversations about those points, and we learn to engage civilly and to express differences of opinion and differences in our experience base, because we think that helping to build the muscle to have those difficult conversations serves everyone when we're in organizations. And how do we prepare? So UVA and Darden focus a lot on student self-governance, which means that we really rely and value student leadership. And so there's so many ways for students to lead, whether it's clubs as presidents or in other supporting roles, to start initiatives. We encourage that highly. We have a phenomenal Office of Student Affairs that coaches and advises students in those leadership roles. And we really try and nurture that. And I would say we have significant representation of women in those roles.
Okay, here's a big question from Tanya in India. How can organizations address cultural challenges and promote inclusivity in diverse workplaces? It's a big question.
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
It's a huge question. It goes back to the comment that I made about first line managers. Like, they're the ones who are actually creating that inclusivity in their groups and their teams. And so we really need to make sure that they are equipped with the skills.
Right.
And part of it means being open to other people, being curious, being willing to support and understand the cultural context from which someone comes, to understand what they value and what their values are. Creating opportunities for them. And also, it also means lending some of your own status, right? So when you find that you're in a role where you are valued and respected and people listen to you, how do you allow others to participate in that so that they can gain more credibility? So it's not an easy unlock. It takes effort and sustained focus on it, but it's infinitely doable. But we really have to spend a lot of time focusing on those who are really on the front line in organizations, because they're the ones closest to creating that sense of belonging and helping people to thrive.
Thank you. We have a question from Rebecca in Nigeria who would like to know more about the Graduate Women in Business organization. And could you elaborate on what that is? And
Sure. I was in a meeting earlier with the president of the Graduate Women in Business, or GWIB as we refer to them. I'll start by saying that it's a dynamic organization of individuals led by a board of second years who just recently put on a conference for first years to help them think about unleashing their leadership potential, to help them engage with companies and firms that are interested in recruiting them. There was so much professional development that gets offered at the conference. And there are opportunities so there's a VP of academics to provide as a liaison to what takes place in the classroom, and to make sure that it's an environment in which women are feeling centered and are engaging in learning. There's a VP of career who's responsible for working with the Career Center and with companies that are interested in hiring our students. It is really a phenomenal organization, and they are everywhere. They're everywhere. And they provide support not just to the women identifying individuals in our community, but more broadly. They're a solid part of the Darden community. I seek their counsel and seek to engage and partner and support all of their efforts.
Thank you. One of the advanced questions is, what advice do you have for someone who is entering the field of diversity and belonging?
Yeah, that's a great question.
We're getting some big questions.
Big questions.
Yes, exactly.
So on this one, I actually, so some colleagues of mine from Stanford, so Sarah Sewell and Lori McKinsey and Shelley Grell and I actually have an HBR piece that just came out about 2 weeks ago that talks about this very topic.
I can't wait to read it.
And the short version is that this is a challenge. This is a challenging time for those who want to enter the field. But stay the course. Understand what it is that you're trying to create. And realize that there are many ways to solve for that, right? So it may not be that you go into a role that's explicitly labeled as diversity and belonging, but any role that you take, you can serve as an ally, you can create space for others, you can mentor them, you can make sure that you create a microclimate in which individuals feel valued, that their voices are heard. And so it may just take shifting and thinking about the diversity and belonging that you can bring to your role, at a time where there aren't as many diversity and belonging explicit roles. They will come back, though, I promise you.
Yeah, that's encouraging. That's encouraging to hear. Darden does so much to support international students.
Yes.
And I'm glad we got a question. Can you share what support there is for international students?
Yes. First of all, you have people on your team who are very dedicated to helping international students in particular through the process. And then we also, in the summertime, have ISOP, which is the International Students Orientation Program, where all of our incoming international students come and gather and have opportunities to get a jump on career opportunities and to learn more about learning in the U.S. context, and more specifically at Darden, and get to know one another, and also just get a little bit of space and time to like acclimate and get their living situation set up. And then we have the wonderful Larry Mueller,
Yes,
who's a assistant dean whose focus is on coaching, advising, supporting international students. And he typically travels the globe in advance. So he's meeting up with our students from different countries in advance of their coming so that they know his face and they can easily find him. And my office partners very closely. There are monthly meetings that Larry runs where we're making sure that we're staying on top of any issues that have surfaced for the international student community. And we're also really recognizing that that's an artificial amalgam, that we have students who come from many, many countries, and we're trying to do a better job of acknowledging their specific country context and not just lumping them into a larger whole.
And as Melissa mentioned earlier, my favorite event of the year is also the International Student Food Festival. So it's so wonderful after recruiting all of these students from all over the world and meeting them during ISOP and having Larry be such a great person for them, support person for them. It's nice to celebrate at the food festival with all of our students too. We mentioned some recent initiatives earlier. Residential housing was one of them. Can you talk a little bit about the Forum Hotel and like what does that mean for our students?
So the Forum Hotel is operated by Kimpton, which is a really lovely high-end hotel operator, but is owned by Darden, which is really amazing. And so it is contiguous with North Grounds, where Darden is located, a little bit down the hill. And so it's a place where students gather. There's an arboretum. There's like ponds, and like it's visually stunning, and it's a place to just gather and sit, and our students are welcome there, and we have events that are there, and it ends up being really fantastic.
One of the things I love about the Arboretum is, like, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, we had somebody come in and talk about health and wellness and how spending time in nature is so good for us and so nice. I mean, any of us, students, faculty, staff, could take a break and go on a walk in the Arboretum. It's just a stunning
and it's right there.
I know.
Right there. Yeah.
So nice. I know this new initiative is brand new, and we're all in the infancy of learning about it. But one of the advanced questions was, how are you looking forward to the Center for Artificial Intelligence, and what value will that add to the current MBA curriculum? And again, that was just announced, so it's in the infancy.
Absolutely. But it also relates to the earlier question about like, how are you preparing students, to take on leadership roles in business? The focus on generative AI, and in particular on the ethics of it, is absolutely critical. And we're so fortunate to have received this gift from Dave and Kathy Lacrosse. And so a lot of the focus is going to be directed at pedagogy. Like, how is it that we are going to help our students learn, talk about, experience generative AI? What are the guardrails? And how do you bring that in? We have phenomenal leadership, Yael Grushka and Raj also are co-academic directors of it. And so it's just a really exciting opportunity. And we find that everyone across UVA is super excited to plug in and engage with us around these issues.
I think it's wonderful too that our dean is so passionate about this topic that he recently, in the last year, took a 6-month sabbatical and went and earned a certification program at Oxford on the ethics of artificial intelligence. He's that invested in learning about it, and also soliciting this important gift for us. So great to see his passion.
It's wonderful to see his passion, and just the fact that it's going to be focused on like really intersecting with students and the learning environment, and how are we building their capability in this realm as these technological advancements are taking place, and what do they have to be mindful of, and how as leaders should they be thinking about this as they're employing this technology.
Right. Okay, we're wrapping up our time together, but Melissa, any last pearls of wisdom for the participants who are joining us today as they navigate their applications and embark on this journey?
I would just say this is an incredibly exciting time. Avail yourselves of all of the podcasts and webinars
Yes.
that you possibly can. Coming to Darden is a unique opportunity. It's for those who want to amplify their voices, who want to figure out how they can take their passions and channel that into really productive outcomes, in the business world. You get to practice before you go out into the real world. You get to do that while building relationships and friendships that are going to last you a lifetime, both on the personal side, but also the professional connections that you will have. And it's a sort of gateway to an incredible generative alumni network that just values the experience that they had, and they value the students who are here and want to be helpful in so many different ways. So I would just, embrace the excitement. I know you have a lot of work ahead of you, but it will be well worth it. And we're excited for you.
We are. And to Melissa's point about the alumni, one of the things I hear so often as I travel around the country and the world is that Darden was 2 of the best years of my life. I hear that from alumni again and again. So as stressful as this process can be, remember that you are embarking on a journey that could end up being 2 of the best years of your life too. And that's pretty exciting. Our team is here to help. My name again is Donna Clark. My email is clark with an ED at darden.virginia.edu. Thank you all so much for joining our webinar today. Wishing you the best of luck with your applications. Reach out if we can be helpful. Thank you to Haley and Asmi, who did so much to make this webinar come together, and looking forward to meeting you, I hope, on grounds or on the road. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And that was Donna Clark's conversation with Melissa Thomas Hunt, a faculty member here at the Darden School of Business and the Senior Associate Dean for the Residential MBA program. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's Darden, @virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.